thought that with God I was never gonna feel alone.
If God would be real, I wouldn't feel.
I have no one to talk to.
I have no one to talk to.
Sometimes it takes us to feel alone to realize that we are not alone. Because actually the enemy is the one that makes us feel alone. Everything that people feel and all the negative things, that Satan does not even God, and we try sometimes to blame it on God, and we say, God, I thought that since I had you, I would be fine. But yeah, no, that's Satan, that's not my God. Sometimes you're like, God, I thought that you were with me and that I would never feel alone. And he's like, hey, you're not alone. I'm right here next to you and I can listen to you. I've been hugging you this whole time and you're not paying attention to me. You know, in this life, a lot of people feel alone, and actually, I think that every single person in this planet at one point has felt alone. I definitely felt alone before, and actually not too long ago, and which is why I'm making this video. You know, Jesus actually felt alone too when he was here on earth. We're gonna go look at it, and it's gonna encourage us today when we feel alone. So we're gonna be looking at the story that are on these verses right here, and we're talking about how Jesus would always usually be uplifting. This Jesus that would be talking all the time, teaching to his disciples. But this time, as they were walking, they were getting closer to the place where Jesus usually would go, which is Gethsemane, where he would be in the Mount of Olives, and usually he would go there. That was his place of meditation. That was a place, the spot that he would pray to God. And it's great because that really teaches us that we should have a place like that where we can go to God when we're in trouble. This time, as Jesus was going, he wasn't talking as much anymore. He was very silent, like never before. Usually, he would walk telling people that Jesus is with him, like we are looking at verse in the Bible in John chapter 8, verse 39. It says, this is how he would reply all the time. The one who sent me is with me. I always do what is pleasing to him. So he has not left me alone. Ain't that amazing? He had not left him alone. He always felt like he had God by his side. But this time was so different for him because it was hard. He felt like full of sorrow and agony. And agony, the definition of agony is extreme physical or mental suffering. And actually, this was the first time that he felt alone. And it was hard. He seemed to be shut out from the light of God's sustaining presence. Can you see how we can compare ourselves to his situation? Usually, he felt like he had God by his side, but this time, he was feeling alone. So there we have Jesus struggling with the temptations of the enemy. And the disciples look at him like never before. They have never seen him so sad and silent. But yet, they did not asked him, they did not dare to ask him what was the cause of that. Can you imagine how Jesus felt? How sad, and no one could understand where that was coming from. Did you ever say, no one understands me? And you just like go crazy. But that's not what I mean, no! Because no one could understand. He knew what was gonna happen, but no one else knew. He knew what was going on. He can so relate to us. Jesus has been through it. He knows it, people. There we have Jesus, feeling like no one else can understand him. But he knows that there is one person that can truly know his heart and his mind, and can truly know the struggle and the battle that's going on within him. It was not easy for him. He was feeling alone. He went to the Mount of Olives and cried his heart out to God. And it's crazy because he did not just ask everything to be the way he wanted things to be done, but he said, Lord, if it's your will, let it be done. It was not easy. Imagine if God tells you, hey, you're gonna die for everybody. I mean, it's great. It's a great mission. But as a human being, you feel so weak and nervous because you know that you're gonna die. And I know that Jesus wanted to do it, but it was so tempting for him to not believe that God would be there with him. And so I'm going to encourage you that there's going to be times in lives that the only person that could really understand us is going to be God. So we got to go and sometimes just take our time, take a break and pray with the Lord. Cry our hearts out to him and let him know how we feel, because he already knows most of the time how we feel. Now knowing that Christ can understand what we go through when we feel alone, we know that if we pray in God's name, in Jesus' name, like it says in the Bible to pray in Jesus' name, we know that definitely God would listen to us, because he knows that his own son has felt alone, and he's gonna have so much mercy on us that he won't judge us. He won't say, I'm here with you, how could you feel alone? He'll say, I know that you might feel alone, but I'm right here with you. Yeah, sometimes to talk about it, it's so easy. For the last couple of 2 weeks, 3 weeks ago, I've been feeling so alone, okay? My family is not really in United States right now. They are back home, so I'm here on my own by myself, and it's challenging. There were times that I just had to cry out to the Lord and say, why am I feeling alone and feeling tempted that no one cares about me? And so when I went through the story, that really encouraged me, because I was like, whoa, Jesus is right there with me. He feels me. You know how like we see someone, a brother, a sister that's feeling bad, and we're like, I feel you, bro. That's the same thing that Jesus tells us. He says, I feel you, my sister. In a practical way, I encourage you to go and find a special place, because Jesus had the Mount of Olives as his special place of meditation. He would meditate, pray, cry out to the Lord in that place whenever he felt alone or any temptation would come in his way. Therefore, we are to do that as well. If we want to get closer to the Lord, find a place, a special place for him. And actually, I have my special place, and usually I like to go to the woods and just cry out to him, or sometimes I go to this really nice, beautiful lake where I can just see nature, because nature is the second book other than the Bible. And so I encourage you to do that, to learn to talk to God. Jesus even experienced how it feels to be betrayed by your own friends. especially with Judah. But then also the disciples, the ones that are supposed to be there good for him. Like, you know how sometimes we're like, I've always been there for my friends, and when I need someone, no one is there for me. Jesus has been there for every single disciple. But yet, when he felt alone and when he needed the most strength, when he went to the Mount of Olives, what did they do? Instead of praying for him the whole night, they fell asleep. Can you imagine how that felt for him? Like, that must have hurt his heart so much, knowing that he needed them the most at that time, but yet they were not there for him. And I know that us as humans, sometimes we also need human support. Jesus wanted the support from his disciples, human support right here on earth. I ask you to pray. I pray to the Lord. I'm like, God, I need some human support as well. I know I have you, and I know you got my back, but I need human support. And he sent me my sisters, 2 sisters that were willing to hang out with me and talk to me. And he sent me some mentor, a mentor, and my friend's mother, that they were there for me, talking to me. So God will send people for you. Just know that God knows how we feel. And know that even without words, even with just tears, he can read every tear that's falling down our faces. He knows because of his son. He has felt the struggle of his only son. So therefore, since we're also his daughters and sons, he can also feel our struggle here on earth.